up, you guys? The Curious Owl here, and today I am bringing you a book review for the book Justice Buried by Hilary Thompson. This is a book through Off Tomes Publishing, so it's not a very well-known book, but I definitely think that it deserves way more traction than it currently has. This is the first novel in the Starbright series by Hilary Thompson. It is a sci-fi-y, dystopian kind of society book that really delves into a lot of awesome things that I was really struck by, particularly the fact that it deals a lot with the zodiacs and how an entire society can be controlled by the zodiacs and by the stars and fortune and fate and all those kinds of things. Now, delving into the story is a little difficult because there's a lot of background that needs to be established. For most sci-fi and fantasy stories, it's a little hard for me to give good synopses of these books because there's so much that's usually going on in a story that it's really hard to decipher, what exactly it is I should be saying that is the most important in terms of what is the main plot of the story. So I'm going to read the Goodreads synopsis that is on the Goodreads page for Justice Buried, and that way it makes it a little bit more concise of an idea of what the story is, but I will also make sure to go into some detail if need be, if there's something else that I think I need to mention. The people need justice, but she's not listening. 100 years before, the Great Sickness reduced the world to 3 dystopian cities. Now the community of Asphodel is trapped underground, waiting for the prophesied Maiden of Justice to rescue them. 16-year-old Estrella is supposed to be this savior. Too bad for them, she isn't a believer. Estrella fights her fate until discovering a power she never knew she had, and a handsome ally she never expected. With her life in danger, Estrella must choose between saving her city or herself. This thrilling young adult adventure is the first in the richly imagined Starbright series, which is laced with mystery, mythology, romance, and magic. Justice Buried will have you questioning fate versus free will, along with Estrella's strong female lead and wondering who can be trusted when everyone is keeping secrets. And boy, do people keep secrets in this book. One of the things right off the bat is the idea that this is kind of a dystopian sci-fi-y society. We are still on the planet Earth, but apparently what has happened is there's been some kind of what has been known as the Great Sickness, where a lot of people ended up dying on Earth, and some people traveled to different parts of Earth to escape it. Some people actually went underground, building the city that is known as Asphodel. Now, the people in Asphodel are very much human. There's not really any human hybrids or anything, but they rely heavily on the zodiacs and essentially build a society over the course of several hundred years based on the idea of using the zodiacs, and how people are placed in society is based on their zodiac and their birth date and things of that nature, which is a very interesting concept to me because we all have heard of things that, things are dependent upon your zodiac. People will read their horoscopes all the time in the newspapers and in magazines, and there's not really any credibility to that anymore. I don't feel that a lot of people really put a lot of credit to the idea of the zodiacs because it's not proven that these things are real. It's just more or less a fun thing for people to get involved with. But I feel that Hilary Thompson really explores the idea of what is to happen if somebody actually decides to take these ideas of using the zodiacs to a completely new level, to a point where it is completely running an entire society. And I really think that she's hit the nail on the head in the way that this is being dealt with, because there's a lot that goes into the way that the city is built and the way that things are gone about in the society itself regarding the zodiacs in terms of determining position of power and determining placement and housing and essentially how you're supposed to have children. It's really, the entire society is just built on your zodiac. And your zodiac can be really, really important. Another really cool thing about this story I really enjoyed is the idea of Estrella as this main character, because she is born on a certain day where essentially it enables her to become the new leader of Asphodel. And she doesn't want it at all, which is very unlike a lot of other main characters you see in these kinds of dystopian societies that are supposed to be leaders. Most of the time they are all for it. You see that they are completely for becoming a new leader and are looking forward to it. Whereas Estrella just wants nothing to do with it. She doesn't want the responsibility. She doesn't want to be looked at in that way. She would rather just live a normal life. And the problem is because with her particular zodiac and her birth date, there's a lot of pressure put on her because she has to be the new leader, and she doesn't want all that pressure. And unfortunately for her, she's also then set up with a boy that she absolutely despises because he was born on a certain day that allows him to marry her and essentially essentially is a prophesized relationship that is going to lead this entire group of Asphodel people out of the ground and back into normal Earth. And it's a whole big thing that is really pushed throughout this novel, is this idea that these two are supposed to be together, and they will be together whether they like it or not. This is a very interesting dilemma that Estrella has to deal with, because although she doesn't want to be in this position and doesn't want to end up marrying this guy that she doesn't like, she knows that also she can't really get out of it, because it's just how things are, and she just has to live with the fact that she's going to have to be this leader and marry this guy and take everyone out onto the surface to basically see if they can come out of the ground and start living on Earth again after this great sickness has passed. But like the synopsis said, there is a lot of lies and deceit that goes on in this novel. From secrets from Estrella, from secrets from her romantic interest, everyone is hiding something from someone, and this leads to so many different twists and turns that I absolutely loved in this story. I will say that for a large part of the novel, I didn't know exactly what was going on. The story is built in a way where you know just about as much as Estrella does, which is pretty much nothing. So to see her go on this journey and find out about these different twists and secrets that are coming up and things that are being revealed, it's astounding, and I think that it was really well done. Nothing was really too much in my opinion. I definitely think the beginning could have been fleshed out a little bit more to at least give us more of a prologue as to what is going on with the time we are in, because I felt that that was a little rushed, and I didn't quite get settled into the scenery and the setting until probably about a couple chapters in. So that was my only real complaint. But with being able to follow Estrella and only know as much as she knows, it leaves a lot of room for surprises and for big twists, which I really, really enjoyed. I literally felt as if I was Estrella going through this entire story, learning about all these things and being shocked at the things that have been happening to her in this novel. One of the things I also really did like about this novel is the relationship between Estrella and the boy she's supposed to marry, because from the get-go, you just feel all of this animosity between the two of them, because they do not like each other. They don't like the fact that they're supposed to get married together. They don't like the fact that they're supposed to be near each other all the time. And so you feel that animosity. But as the story goes on and they start to become not exactly friends, but they start to kind of mend the friendship barrier, I guess is what you would call it, you really start to see different sides of Estrella as she learned a lot more about herself and about this boy she's supposed to marry and all these different things. And it's really interesting because I've never seen a book where there's such a complete hatred towards another character and there's such a disdain for the fact that they're supposed to marry each other. I've never seen that in a story, and I really, really enjoyed it because I thought that it gave more interest. There was a love triangle that was played into that I was kind of not thrilled about partway through the novel, but it wasn't awful either. I just didn't like the way that it kind of ended up, but you know, I'm excited to see how the next book goes in terms of how that love triangle plays, because it kind of was left on a very strange note at the very end of the book, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm very excited to read the next books that are out already. I thought the pacing overall of the novel was really well done. I do feel that there was some places that were a little bit slower in terms of giving us information about the world. I don't feel that anything was really info dumped as opposed to many other sci-fi and dystopian novels tend to do. I think that the pacing of the novel and the pacing of information about the setting and the world building was done pretty well. Definitely could have been expanded a little bit more. I think that overall, the biggest problem I had was I wish I would have known a little bit more about kind of what was the history that these people were taught in terms of how their town came to be. It was very just minimal. There wasn't a lot of information. But what was really interesting was that at the beginning of each chapter, there was a little quote, usually from some kind of book or some kind of scroll of some kind that was from former leaders in the past, like the very first leader of the Asphodel people from after the Great Sickness and all this stuff, which was really, really cool, but it didn't give much as to really telling anything about what was going on in the chapter. Didn't really seem to help much other than just give us some random quotes from older people in this society. I didn't feel that it was necessary, but it was pretty cool to see some different kinds of things that, you know, were being taught to these people. But I definitely thought that the book could have done well without it. I think Estrella's character arc has already developed so much just in this first novel of the series, because in the very beginning she starts out to be this very arrogant girl, very full of herself, and just kind of is a no-holds-barred kind of person, doesn't really want to be involved in anything regarding her position of power. But by the end of it, she really understands how her position of power is important, and she becomes much more selfless and really starts to hope and pray that something's going to happen that's going to help her get to where she needs to be, which is in her rightful place as leader. And that character arc is very interesting because I thought things would turn out really, really bad and make her turn against being a leader even more, especially after a lot of secrets and things have been revealed. So that's basically all I have to say for Justice Buried by Hilary Thompson. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this book a 4.75 out of 5 stars because personally I really enjoyed it. There were only very small things that I thought were kind of troublesome or anything, but I definitely thought that this book was a very strong debut for a series. I so want to read the next books because it sucked me in. It did take a little bit to get into, and I wish that there were some things that would have been changed in terms of the formatting, but overall it was actually really freaking good. Definitely one of the best sci-fi stories I've read in a long time, which is saying something because I don't tend to read sci-fi, as I absolutely hate how there's a lot of info dumping that is done in sci-fi stories, but it definitely lends itself, I think, to the credit of a dystopian series where it kind of helps to give a lot of the dystopian elements into sci-fi. But if you guys read Justice Buried and have your own thoughts on it and you'd like me to know, please do so in the comments below. I'd love to talk with you guys about this novel if you've read it. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did, but I understand how some people wouldn't be able to really like it. So anyway, if you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!